All right.
Cool. Perfect.
All right. Awesome. All right. So I'll give you a little heads up before I hit the record button. But basically the way it works is we record it. Anything that you're not comfortable with or something happens, we can just edit it out. So don't worry about that.
Or we'll include it and not tell you.
Yeah.
Is there a way to center? Is there a way to center your screen as well, or I can just see Thomas or Ravi?
Oh, I'm actually,
Robbie's gonna boogie out. He can't.
Okay, cool.
This is what you want to see.
Of course it is. I just haven't met my man, and I'm.
Oh, squeeze in. There's the Robbie.
Nice to meet you, dude.
What's going on, dude? Yeah, sorry, I have a bunch of like other crap I got to work on.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
less important stuff
like the hangout. Let me. Oh, actually, you're good. We're all good.
Yeah,
now,
we're good.
So,
he's gonna record on his side.
And
then we'll just get that file for you from you.
Yeah, sorry, Todd. I wish I could be in the room with you.
Yeah.
All right, let me. Sometime.
Yeah, exactly. Let me record here.
All right, you guys are good to go. The good news is the internet seems to be working just fine right now. So that's good.
It's not hooked up to my 6-year-old.
Ravi's laptop was killing it.
I'm gonna push this blind down just a touch.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ravi.
Perfecto.
All right, awesome. So we're here with Todd Falker, what's your exact position over at Puma?
Yeah, I'm a senior product line manager in the Run Train BU. I'm focused 100% on performance running.
All right. So that, just for people so they can understand what that really means, because I think there's a lot of if you're outside the industry, not everybody understands what a product line manager is and what the task is and what you're responsible for in the shoe lineup. So of course we're talking about Puma Running. At Puma Running, what does the product line manager, what is your main focus?
Yeah, absolutely. It's honestly, it's a little bit of everything. PLMs and product line managers are supposed to be, kind of the hub of the entire product process. We work really, really closely with design and development. And I think to your point, everyone kind of knows what a shoe designer is and what they do. And it's a difficult task, and definitely to continue to deliver a new style is a challenge for them. But what we do as PLMs is really set the strategic direction from the beginning, determine what models are going to be in the product line, in the range, work with sales, merchandising, everyone kind of across the organization to get those inputs right on what we need to do from a pricing standpoint, from a performance feature standpoint. And then, we kind of kick off the process by doing our research and then writing a product brief. So, I really appreciate, Believe in the Run and all the videos and everything you guys do. It's great for us to understand what's going on in the market. We also, as a PLM, one of my number one focuses is on being the master of what the competition is doing as well. Because, you have to know what they're doing in order to beat them, right? So we brief, we give that to, design and development. Design does a couple rounds and really we work all together to get to what that final design wants to look like. And then at that point, we actually hand it off to development, which I would say is another kind of unsung hero in the process. The people that work specifically with Asia to, make the strategy and make the pictures, the design actually come to life in 3Ds and, material stitching, all of that stuff together. But, PLM, again, we start it, we kind of hold on through the middle, and then once we kind of finalize the product and what that actually is, then we work with merchandising, with sales, so that they have all the information that they need to go show key accounts and all of our retailers. And sometimes we even, have the pleasure of meeting some of those retailers, which are some of my favorite, times are connecting with the people that are actually out there selling the product. But PLM, we're a hub. We get to do a lot of different things.
Well, that's interesting, and it is a lot because even from the start, okay, we want a fast day shoe, we want a support shoe, we need a daily trainer, we need a max cushion, and all the little buckets that each shoe company is going to try to find their slice of the market in. As a PLM, you're writing these briefs out for the layman. Like, what's in a brief? Like we see, it's funny because we were just talking about this recently with a shoe designer, and we were saying by the time that we are reviewing the shoe, you're already making the 2 years down the road shoe. Like we'd love to think that our input is really driving, change in the industry, where it may influence something that you might see a couple of years down the road. But for the most part, we are just there as a function to say, hey, this will make your running better or not. As a PLM, when you're writing that brief, what goes into a brief?
I think you hit on a lot of really interesting pieces. And so cost and schedule are certainly two pieces of it, right? The entire design process takes about 18 months. And so you nailed it. If you're designing a shoe 12 months after it came out, you're essentially designing blind, right? You don't have feedback from that first one to make the next one. But a brief in general starts with, I would say, what the business objective is, right? Like, what do we want to accomplish? Where does this piece fit within the line? And then the strategic direction. I mean, every single product has to have a reason to be. You walk into a retail store, the wall is full of shoes, right? There aren't like, So in order to get on the wall, you have to really give retailers a reason to be and consumers a reason why they would want to buy that product. And so focusing on those key differentiators is, always, I would say, my number one focus. But, the guts of the brief also are as detailed as we want to be or not. It can be down to lug shape. It often is stack heights, but we certainly work with our 3D team on, geometries. For instance, when you are using a plate, you need a certain thickness of foam kind of surrounding that. So there's sometimes we're like, oh, we want to do this. And they're like, well, that's great, but we can't actually build that. And then I would say like the competitive analysis is a part of every brief as well. There's a lot of great shoes in the industry. So, being aware of what's out there, but then how we can innovate and take our product to the next level and really separate ourselves is the main goal.
How often do you look back at a brief that you did and say, yes, we nailed it? Or you say, oh my God, this is nothing like where we started. It could still be a great shoe, but the process of what we're trying to bring to market either goes a different direction or it just is so good that you're like, wow, how are we going to top this?
You use the word that I was going to say, which is process. The whole thing is a process. It pretty much is never what you started out to be in some way, shape, or form. But I think in general, like the burden is on the PLM, right? Like if we set the good direction and that's the way that we want to go and we can stay consistent in that vein. If we set a good direction, then we stay pretty true to it. But the other thing is new information is always coming out. New shoes are always coming out. The marketplace is always changing. COVID happened, right? Like all these things influence and we need to stay flexible to trends. Puma being the brand that's forever faster, that is our goal, is to be at the forefront of trends. And, that doesn't always mean like starting something new and crazy that no one's done, but it means like having the most up-to-date knowledge and making the most progressive and performance-based product.
Yeah. Now we're seeing shoe lines do stuff like, Brooks BL line. You're seeing some other companies that have kind of like an experimental component to their product. And I do feel like in the past, Puma did some crazy stuff that was innovative, but maybe wasn't as marketable to the public. Like maybe, I forget the one that had the bands that like, you remember that one where it had like
I do that shoe that shall not be named. No, it was
okay.
It was called Mobium. It was a cat.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right.
It was an idea, and you see those shoes though. Like I know that other shoe companies have gone out and they try to experiment with something and bring it to market, and most of the time, it's a reach because honestly, people find a shoe that they like, and and we try to help with that with our reviews, is get people out of their mold. But most people, if they find, okay, I like, say, the Kimbara, want a Kimbara 1, the 2, and they'll just go to their shop in 3, 4, 5 and just continue to buy that line and be like, that's my shoe. So the risk in doing something new or different is it's going to be harder to educate the public too. And I feel like Puma started off with the Foss lineup, which was a really solid line, and then kind of got into the experimental stuff and kind of maybe faded out and then came back. How do you get people to buy in at Puma that you can still experiment and have fun when some of these things probably left a scar?
Yeah, and I would encourage everyone to go back and listen to the previous Believe in the Run podcast with Aaron Longan. our global director at Puma. I think she did a great job of kind of setting our overall strategy. One of the things that, Aaron led and that our entire team has been kind of pushing in the direction of is really working closely with our innovation department. Puma is a big global brand. We have a fully functional innovation team based in Germany that, PLM, I'm a little bit of everything and not necessarily an expert at one thing. We have one guy there that's like the foam expert, one guy there that's the innovative materials or 3D construction or like whatever it is. And there's always these crazy innovative things, but if they're too far out or they don't fit, then it's going to feel like a one-off and not necessarily work, right? And so that's one thing that, Aaron and I have worked really closely with Roman and the innovation team to have the concepts and the cool new materials or constructions that are available. How do we make those like fit and work within the lineup that we have? And then from a strategic product direction, it's really been for Puma Performance Running about two things: balancing consistency with innovation. And I would say, in 2021, we just kind of did our major relaunch in March, right? And I like to call that the last time that we're going to relaunch. You mentioned Foss, you mentioned some other things that were good shoes, but they're not here now, right? Like they changed over time. And my favorite thing, and I hope we get to talk a little bit more about Nitro in a second, but my favorite thing about our new line is it really sets us up to be consistent, to make products that people will love and then not mess them up, right? Like not change Velocity 1 to Velocity 2, and we're already thinking about Velocity 3. Deviate, working on some slight updates there as well, but balancing the consistency of the models that people love with those new innovative pieces. And look, I'm a runner myself. Don't mess with my favorite shoe, right? Like good ride, a good fit, a good feel. I want to be able to rely on that. And you should go to your retailer, but I want to be able to just order online as well and say, I know what that shoe fits like, I know that size, and then get it. And we did that, I think, in a really, really great way, spring, summer 2021 with what we've launched. I can't wait to 2022 because, as you know, innovations and those concepts, they just take more time, right? And at the very beginning of this process, we worked inline, but we also work on the advanced concepts teams. We have things that are going to blow everyone's mind for 2022. And I can't wait to go into more detail, but, I know today's not the day for that.
That's awesome. I think it's kind of, when we talk about like changing a runner's shoe, it's almost like you get used to a personality, and it'd be like if your friend showed up and they're a totally different person and you're like, what, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that brings up an interesting question, because you talked about, it is a German company, and you have a strong European influence on the product. And here you are, and you're based out of Boston, right?
Yep.
And you're working on shoes here. How much autonomy do you have in developing product for the American market, or are you kind of like, how does that work, working in a global company like that?
Yeah, for sure. So all of the performance product for running, training, and basketball is actually done out of Boston. So we are, I would say, fully, Boston based in regards to those things. But then we do have the corporate partnerships. And honestly, I don't look at it as a limiting factor at all. I look at it as one team, and I look at it as additional resources, right? Like if we can do things and make a product and design it, we certainly have full autonomy to do that. So that's fantastic. However, if there are things that are like, too advanced or take more time, or we need more support, it's great to have other resources and other experts that you can lean on and rely on. And we have, regular calls set up with all the inputs that we need. And, at the end of the day, we all celebrate the wins together, right? Like we are one Puma, we are one fam. And when we see Molly, cross the finish line and anyone have success, we're all high-fiving and cheering even across the pond from each other.
That's interesting. Is there, in my imagination, I think, oh, well, a shoe that we like here in the States will translate to other places. And I'm finding from some of the other companies, especially the Asian market, there's a different preference in shoes. Are you finding that there's a different preference for trainers in Europe, the United States, and in Asia?
For me personally, that was one of the biggest learning curves when I came to Puma. The brand I was at before was, probably 80% domestic, and Puma's probably more like 80% international. So learning the regional differences were really something that I needed to get up to speed on at a big global company like Puma. We're working with retailers all over the globe that are all the experts in their areas. There are some differences. The difficulty in some ways is kind of quantifying those and in building a shoe that can, be a global shoe so everyone can have it because it's the best shoe. But then what kind of customizations or what do the other pieces of it look like? We do have something called the Regional Creation Center. So if Puma North America, PNA wants something, they can do a slight tweak on things. And, we have a team all over the globe that manages the regional things. But in general, we focused with our running reset on a few key regions that we knew were the most important and the influential, heard all of their concerns. And, one specific example actually is originally we were just going to launch with 3 neutral shoes, keep it a little bit tight. And, we heard from France and some other regions that stability and guidance was still a really relevant category. And so the Eternity Nitro was actually the 4th shoe that we started. But came out great. We kind of rethought the way stability and didn't do a medial post. And it's kind of working for people, but that's a perfect example of the process, right? Where you start with the process, a plan, and then you get more feedback and then you have to adjust. And that's the job every day.
So that's actually interesting. So first off, I want to ask 2 things. So is the American market, are we into softer shoes than the rest of the world?
That's a great question. I think as our creative director, Tom likes to say that the world is getting softer and the world is getting lighter. If you think about 50 or 80 years ago, the transition from PUs to when EVA midsoles came out, that was a whole paradigm shift. I believe, and I think we at Puma believe that the world is getting a little bit softer. And I don't think that that's a US specific thing at all. I think that the thing was before, too soft of foams weren't as responsive, right? So if you wanted to go fast, all of my marathon PRs on the road are in, the thinnest racing flat ever. And you just are running the last 6 miles on completely dead legs and then being smashed for 3 to 4 weeks. Nowadays, these foams are that soft, but they're also, have the rebound, right? And so
and light.
What's that?
And light.
And light, absolutely. So, now that the materials have advanced that far, you don't have to suffer in some of the way that runners used to. And so I think that's been one of the reasons why there has been that trend, but trends come and go a little bit, right? It used to be barefoot, then it was maximal. Now it's going to be soft. We'll see if there's a swing in another direction at some point.
Well, I think right now, it is in the time that I've been in it, we've gone from minimal to maximal to knit to environmentally sound to, plates. Everybody's getting a plate now. You get plates across the board. But it's interesting because you said that France gave you the feedback that stability was still something important for the brand to have in the category. Probably in the stores when you're trying to do selling, they're like, hey, if we're going to put your shoes on the shelf, we need to be able to have everybody in this category. So you say, okay, stability, which used to mean medial posting, and a very plasticky heel cup or a rigid heel cup to kind of lock that back of the foot in. And you are the PLM, so you've got to write a brief.
Yeah.
And so where do you start with something like that? Do you just say, okay, we want a stability shoe, and they're like, let's try guide rails instead of, medial posting? How does that decision happen?
Yeah, this is honestly a perfect microcosm, a little bit of our process, because if memory serves me right, so we actually partnered with the University of Massachusetts. Wouter Hoogkamer, that was the lead author on the 19% paper, is someone that we have, a contract with and regularly kind of go to for advice, I would say. So I worked with him and his research assistants and said, hey, give me all of the research around stability. What do we know? What do we not know? What's proven out? What's not? And the result of that was kind of learning stability shoes don't make people be injured less, right? The injury rate, whatever it's been, 20 to 30% since the 70s, and it's never gone down. So there is this thing called pronation, and people think or know that they want support in certain ways. But the problem with the old traditional kind of medial post was you don't know where someone's pronating, and you can't necessarily stop it to make sure that their knee is going to be aligned. So what we did specifically with Run Guide was actually to say, how do we make this more relevant for a wider consumer base? So we do have a slightly firmer density rim, but it actually goes all the way around, which does two things. One, if someone is overpronating and you don't know where, that's okay, because we've got it the full length, right? We're going to give you that support wherever you want it. And then two, we actually expanded the range of consumers. I, for instance, happen to be a really, really extreme supinator on one foot. We actually have that Run Guide on the lateral side as well. So we designed a shoe that's going to have a bunch of nitro under your foot, but really work for people with all different foot strikes. But again, leaning on that research and trying to think from a PLM perspective, like, what is the business objective? How do we expand our consumer range? And I think in the result, we have a shoe that works great for a lot of people.
What's interesting about that is you talk about designing a shoe and you say, we don't know where this person's going to land or that person's going to land. And I do think someday in the future, I don't know how it's going to get there. It's kind of like a singularity, but once we get there, I won't be able to figure out how the world works without it. Yeah. But one of these days it is going to be customized to the person and fit towards the person. Is that anything that's even on the radar at this point? Or is that so far out in the spectrum that, I'm thinking nonsense?
I almost want to defer, but it's something that Puma's working on. It's something that a lot of other brands are working on, the concept of customized footwear. My personal belief, and I know this having worked retail, at a couple run specialty stores in Michigan and in St. Louis, runners like to feel something under their foot to decide if it's good or not. And stores will never go away because people want to go in and they want to put it on, they want to pick it out, they want the design. Even if Thomas, I could say to you, hey, you get to design your own shoe from scratch and pick all the materials and all the construction. And if I could actually do that for you and then it showed up at your door one day, I seriously question if you would even like it. Maybe not.
That's the old Henry Ford thing. If you'd asked people what they wanted a faster horse.
Yeah. Yes. Well said.
Yeah. So, and I do agree, I would have, there's been certain things in innovation, even in the shoes, that I would never have been able to predict it. And I love once they're here. And, we see, shoes from every different brand. Yes. And every once in a while, we're still shocked and surprised. So it's fun for us. It keeps us in the game and keeps us excited about products and what's happening. And one of them is this new foam that we are seeing in a lot of shoes, which is the infused, nitrogen infused foams. And there's a couple different ways you can go TPU or you can go EVA, right? In the foams. And which one is in the nitro?
Yeah, good question. And just to kind of close the book on that previous comment you made as well, the whole goal with being a PLM is to have that crystal ball, is to figure out and guess based on feedback, but also to anticipate what runners will want before maybe they even know. And I promise you in 2022, we're going to have multiple concepts that will be
you keep teasing 2022. How soon are we getting those on our feet?
I'll stop teasing it. But, as a PLM, I'm working in 2023 and 2024 as well. So
I just think that's so hard too, because as somebody, I do design and I paint and all that stuff. I went to art school and I was always, every once in a while I was like, okay, that was a great painting. And I put that last stroke on it and I'm like, that done. And I know it's done. There's some that you finish and you're like, it's me. I know I could probably have done that a little bit better, but I'm done working on it. It's got to get out to market or whatever. Yeah. And I'm thinking that, when I think it would be so hard to be in your position where I'm working on 2023 and I'm like, this is rad. We fixed a problem that I knew was in this one, but that one, it's out of the gate. It's the barn, the hay. What do they say? The hay is in the,
the hay is in the barn. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
the cows are in the barn. That's what my family says. We're dairy farmers, grew up. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. And and so right now you've got a lineup that you were really excited about and came out in what year are we now? 2020 came out, was a big year for Puma coming back in, had a full line of shoes, pretty much across the board. Reviewers and runners were pretty excited and accepting of that line. Now you're coming in and I can already tell you're excited about 2022. We're in 2021. Is 2021 sort of that year we see from shoe companies where it's tweaks on stuff that's available. And then 2022, we get to see kind of like the stuff that we learned and the feedback we got. Here's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, for Puma, there was a lot of research that needed to be done to make the new line as good as it is. And I'm still always patiently like waiting, like, oh, when's that terrible review gonna come, or when's somebody gonna say you didn't make a good shoe. But the whole team has been just stoked at how positive the feedback has been. But it's hard. We started with Nitro because there have been so many advancements in terms of foams that we really wanted to have a statement technology that could be in every shoe in our line. And it is a supercritical foam that's in every shoe, which, next to no other brand, I think, is doing something like that. But starting with new last, new foam, new materials, new plates, new run guides, like all of that technology was a lot just to put in like a pretty tight collection at the start. So, we wanted to make shoes that, a lot of times I said to myself, like, hey, let's just not screw it up, like, let's just make things that people like. And then when we have a little bit more time, we'll invest and then, have some more advanced concepts. But there's, to your point, we call it go to market, right? There's a point in the process where we could noodle with something forever and always make it a little bit better and never come to market with anything. And there is a point where we have to say, okay, this is, when orders are going to be placed, and this is when we want to plan the marketing and all the other pieces, because, product, we don't live in isolation, right? So anyway, I think that's been a big part of it, is thinking through the whole thing and doing, the right amount at the beginning and then building upon it in the future. Yeah.
So let's get back to the Nitro, which is
happy to. So you mentioned EVA and TPU. So I think, a lot of shoes traditionally have been EVA, and then some newer ones have used TPU. When it comes to TPs, thermoplastics, there's a million different versions of it. We're using, Nitro is actually from the TPEE raw material family, which is a different type of a plastic, and it allows us to get, that smooth texture.
So if I saw TPEE,
say it again?
If I saw it's TPEE, if I saw it in its raw form, what does it look like?
It doesn't look any different than any other raw material plastic. It's just like little baby beads, almost like BB gun pellets.
Okay, so it comes in this like BB gun pellet form.
Yep.
We smash it into a tiny puck, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The supercritical process. I mean, we start with about a 4-inch shoe, 3 to 4 inch, like hard plastic material. And because our raw material is a little bit more pure, it's higher grade, and that's, kind of where the goodness comes from. And we put it in these really cool, almost like an autoclave, like a superheated chamber, and it blows up almost like a kernel of popcorn, right? And it gets kind of really oversized and shaped. And that's actually where the Nitro part comes from, right? Like, we're using supercritical nitrogen. And one thing I've been wanting to connect with you on for a long time is, people talk about Nitro foams, and they talk about, TPU foams, they talk about PBACs and other foams. For us, nitrogen is just the process, right? Like, our raw material being better, and the difference of that really allows us to expand on Nitro in the future. So using both a better raw material and a better process gives us the best result.
All right. And obviously, Puma putting it in every shoe, you guys believe this is probably the premier midsole material to give runners the best running experience.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a big investment. It's more expensive than anything that we've used before, and that's okay. We want runners to really feel that ride and feel the difference. And, if you eat a meal made with good ingredients, you can tell that it's good, right? That's how
What are some of the limitations of that, using this material, that you guys have to figure out ways to work around?
Yeah, great question. There's between 5 and 10 different factors that you have to consider when you're making a foam. Rebound, compression set, specific gravity, density, hardness, and oh, by the way, cost is one of those as well, right? So some of these new supercritical foams don't bond quite as well, and aren't always as good when it comes to like if you put the foam right on the ground, it may abrade a little bit more quickly. So if you look at some of our shoes, we'll use more rubber coverage in some places we have an EVA layer to kind of mix with the nitro. But then on a shoe like a race day shoe where, durability and long-term isn't as much the concern, that's where we put like the most nitro in that we can.
All right, cool. And you seem really pumped about 2022. So can you give us any preview of, like, it doesn't have to be exact shoes, but maybe updates to shoes and what you're going for with the performance of those shoes? Like, why are you so excited?
Yeah, really easily. So from the beginning, we've had two main goals. One was to deliver an effortless run, and one was, the concept of Run for Her, which was really investing in women. So we have, a couple new racers that are going to really address that effortless run aspect. And, we've been testing against our own internal shoes and even some of the competitors, been absolutely blown away by the results. So more coming there and just making running fast easy, right? Like running fast is hard. You want the shoe to stay out of your way.
And I will tell you, no matter how easy you make the shoe, people are going to want to run harder. So no matter what, it'll never be easy. But that's the interesting thing with the women design stuff, because I guess, just from my perspective, I'm always leaning from what I prefer and what I like. And I don't really take that into consideration. I'm guessing that because the shoe industry has a large male population in there, that it has been something that's been lagging behind. What is the initiative, and what does it actually mean for women, that when you say design for women? Because I look at people's feet, they look similar enough. Maybe they're smaller, but what does that actually mean?
Yeah, and women are the new force in running, right? As of about 2 years ago, more women than men are finishing races of all distance, from the 5K to the half up to the full marathon. So women are getting out a lot more. And women aren't just smaller men, right? Like their body composition is different. Their weight distribution is kind of different. And specifically their Q angle, or if you look at the quadriceps and the hips, that's different. And so women just kind of have different needs when it comes to footwear. I think also for too long, women have been a second thought when it comes to, research and also product development. So from the very beginning, we started, with women, making not only women specific lasts so that the shoes are going to fit their feet the best, but really over investing. We've done, 4 times as many miles of wear testing as any season previously. 4 times as many shoes, and actually 8 times as many miles. And the majority of that investment has been in women. And then in 2022, again, research takes more time. But yeah, we have an exciting concept that I think women are really going to be interested in.
When you say the last is different, what makes a woman's foot different than a man's?
Sure. Typically, women have a much narrower heel and are more likely to get, heel slip, which runner's knots can help with that a little bit, some of those things. But then, also a little bit of a different kind of arch shape and contour. So yeah, we've worked at our shape specifically to be fit for her. And yeah, I think we're in a really good spot. The feedback's been positive. I think I froze a little bit.
There we go. All right, you froze up there for a second, but luckily your audio on your side should come through. The other question I have about that is, so you're investing in women testing the shoes and more models. Will there be specific models just for women, or will they be the DV8 Nitro men's and women, but you'll just know that it was modified more for a woman's foot?
Yeah, probably let's just cut that part. we can talk about it offline.
All right, that's the marketing. It gets into the marketing side. I get it.
I appreciate you pushing, but yeah, I don't want to go too far that way.
All right, awesome. Well, I do think it's interesting just in the market to see. I'm wondering if Puma is going to be part of a larger industry movement on that, or like if we're going to see that coming from other brands, or if you guys will be a front runner. So it should be a fun little new segment of the running industry. Luckily, we've got Megan on the team, and she can test those shoes and let us know what she thinks.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll definitely have to get her a pair for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of women on the team now. A lot of them are on trails though, so we'll have to see. I know we've got a wide foot in Holly sick out there in California. I don't know where she is now. She was at the party the other day, but she's all over the place now with her husband who's in the Air Force or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, I mean, you know, especially because of COVID, more people are getting outside and being on trails as well. We do actually have a new shoe that I can talk about called Nitro. That is a fantastic trail shoe. A lot of cushion, a lot of grip on our Puma Grip rubber outsole. Kind of a cool progressive booty fit upper that should be launching. I mean, it's 7/15, so it should be today or any day soon.
Oh wow! You guys will have to send us a picture of that so we can get it up on the gram.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll check it. I'll touch base back with Hannah.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, kind of in a flip-flop backwards kind of way, because we've covered pretty much what you're doing as a PLM and some of the things that's going on with Puma. But like for people who love shoes like we do and love this stuff, and maybe a younger listener, how would they possibly get involved in the shoe process or get to a point where you are in your career? Like, what does that path look like? Yeah,
totally. I think for me, I knew that I loved sports and I loved being outdoors and kind of loved business. You know, the path that I took was getting my economics degree undergrad and doing a couple internships. In fact, my first ever internship was unpaid in Boston with Saucony a lot of years ago. And, you know, getting that foot in the door as a first step is a good, is a good first step, I would say. And for me, I kept kind of going to school, finished my undergrad, got an MBA as well. I knew I kind of wanted to go maybe the corporate route in the business route, but most of that time I was working retail. I was getting in touch with consumers. I was learning about the market. I was learning about those trends. And there's really no substitute for retail. You see people coming in every day. You learn about, because every PLM is talking to the tech reps who's talking to the associates, right? You get all the info straight from the horse's mouth or from, a really, really close touch point. And then for me, I went from retail to managing a store to being a tech rep. Tech rep is a great, great step towards being a PLM. But I would say PLMs can come from pretty much anywhere as well, is the trick. So it's definitely a difficult line of work to get your foot into. But I would say having a passion for product, and really just being persistent and learning about the industry, but also being a part of the community, right? Like at Puma, we're a running brand and we've been surrounding ourselves with runners. In fact, we just hired, a fast runner and a great guy named Connor from a retail store in Boston, who had a great kind of background. And I would say he was a good example of someone that, worked retail, was managing a couple stores, really understood the product, and then was in a great position to be brought into corporate to learn about the business systems and to learn about kind of global distribution. But it's not an easy career path to get going on.
Yeah, I also think it's a little different than people would imagine. Like I would imagine I just get to pick out what kind of shoes that people want to wear and tell somebody to design them, which sounds like you've got to have a lot more background in finances and understanding the process of development and staying on budget and, some of the technical and detail-oriented skills that maybe a creative doesn't necessarily have. So like if you're into making a shoe, maybe you wouldn't want to be a PLM if you're into designing shoes because it's a different skill set.
It's definitely a different skill set. It's definitely more business oriented, a lot of numbers and a lot of, the non-glorious is the PowerPoint slides, right? And all the communications to the region. But I would say, the number one skill of being a PLM, as I started with, is still being that hub, is still being able to work with the different departments and, design, giving feedback and working with them on their process. Development, hey, where are we on cost and on schedule? Are we following through? Marketing, what do you guys need? What assets, what photo shoots, what athletes, like really just kind of, for me, being like an expert in the space, I think is the best start that you can get. And then so many of the specifics, the business systems and all that, most people could learn that once they get on the job. But it's not easy. There are starting to be more and more programs. For instance, I was in Utah, and I know that Utah State has an actual program for people that want to learn about like the footwear and the apparel industry and the sports industry. But there aren't a lot of it. And so that's where, for me personally, it was like, keep knocking on all the doors, just keep going, persistent, be willing to do an unpaid internship or do what you have to do to get a foot in, and then just keep building.
I guess the follow-up question to that would be, so if you weren't a PLM or Puma, and you could choose any career path or do anything that you wanted to do, what would you do?
A professional runner. I always wanted to be a professional runner. I mean, I know, people like Molly in 4th grade wrote it on their card, and for every person like her that, said, I want to be an Olympian, and then she actually gets to be, there's probably a couple thousand people like me that are like, oh, I wanted to do X, but I didn't get there. I went to Division III school, Albion College in Michigan. We made nationals. I broke 4 minutes in the 1500. Like, I did some fun and cute things. But you're not going pro with that, right? And so for me, working in the industry has been just the way to continue to stay involved and to really follow up in my passion. And, now I do some longer races, marathons and even some ultras where
JFK.
What's that?
I said the JFK.
Yeah, exactly. JFK. And actually I'm doing a race called Burning River 50 next week.
Okay.
Which I'm pretty excited about, but yeah, I still get to be involved in the sport and have those connections to the community, which is awesome.
Well, I would think that you do have access to athletes like Molly and some of the other Puma athletes. Does it sort of feel like you get to be a pro runner because you're hanging out with these guys doing easy runs with them, I guess?
I don't know if I could do what they do. The number of miles and the dedication to the sport is really, really next level. I feel good running about half what they do. But yeah, no, I mean, it's always fun learning, look, when somebody's running 2 to 3 miles a day versus somebody that's running 10 miles a day, like there are things that come up when you're doing longer runs. You're more likely to get blisters or have some issues. And so we definitely work really closely with our athletes across the board to get product feedback.
That's awesome. And the second question I would have is, so you're finishing JFK, you're finishing Burning River, and you're done, and you're going to celebrate now. What's on the plate and what's in the glass? Oh,
man. Apologies to the world of running. I'm not a beer guy. I like to, my go-to is actually, and I'm going to get judgments, but it's real. I go to Starbucks, I get like a quad shot, venti iced caramel macchiato, get the caramel drizzle, chocolate dribble, get the whipped cream, get the cinnamon.
Holy cow.
Like, it's like I don't know, I'm probably exaggerating. It's probably like a 1,200 calorie like coffee.
It might be. The only reason that one freaks me out is because it's kind of funny. Like after a race, I've had all those goos or the Martins and it's just sugar. And then I'm like ready for like, an acid or something a little salty or something like that. So sure. Like I'm saying, you probably just can't get enough goo.
Well, actually, it's the other way around. I have to, if I only do sugars, I'll have a huge bonk mid-race. So I do have to a few gels, but then a few more carb-based things or like, bar type things. And when I'm doing like 50s or 100s, actually avocado is like one of my go-to.
Oh, wow.
It's like silky smooth, but it also is more of like a base versus a sweet. So yeah. Different tips, but.
That's awesome. And okay, favorite Puma shoe for you to run in? I'd say favorite running shoe, but I'm guessing it's going to be a Puma.
Yeah. Well, I mean, outside of the prototypes that I've been testing, I mean, Deviate Elite for me really is just so stinking smooth. The plate is there, but it doesn't feel intrusive. I can run slow in it. I can run fast in it. It's ridiculously lightweight, which I don't like heavy shoes. Like I personally don't like running in anything over like 8.5 ounces at all.
What size foot are you?
I'm about 11 and a half.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's hard to find a shoe under 8.5 ounces for a size 11 and 11 and a half.
And I'm also a little bit meeting sample size or whatever, but just, I think like I've been like, why do we have to have heavy shoes? Like, why does that have to be a thing? And I think with Nitro Foam, we put that in everything to keep all of our shoes, initially like Velocity, people are like, oh, this is a lightweight trainer. It's like, no, it's a fully like cushioned functional trainer. It's just really lightweight because we think that the world's getting lighter.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. I am thinking that we pretty much covered anything unless there's something you want to go over or, if you want to spill the tea on something that's going on at Puma.
No tea spilling. I did have kind of a question for you, because you buy and test all the shoes. if you had a chance to put on that hat and play PLM for a second, what new shoe would you design, or is there a model in the Puma lineup that you would say, oh yeah, I need to modify this shoe and I would change it like this?
Well, I think, one of my favorite things, and we've talked about this before, is when Puma came out this round and why I think it got the response it did from the running public or the people who are getting the shoes. You guys kind of had a really nice answer to every segment on the wall. So we had Liberate, which was nice, fast, lightweight, just you got a little bit of ground feel, but not too much. Really fun shoe to run in. If you don't want to plate and you want to run fast, that shoe does it. Go up to the Deviate, and you had, you get a plate, it's squishy, you can do daily miles in it. The Liberate, I thought, was a really nice shoe from you guys as far as just a daily trainer. And that one's probably one I recommended the most from the Puma line, just because I feel like that one's the most palatable to the most runners. Like, it's lightweight. It has enough cushioning for the daily run and all that. I guess where I get most excited is the lightweight stuff, and where I'm finding the most enjoyment in my run is when I have adequate cushioning in a lightweight shoe. So, some of the shoes that get me excited, I probably put the, what was the first one I was saying?
Well, Liberate, you said first, and then, yeah,
the Liberate, that's kind of like where my sweet spot is, as far as like, I just finished up the Rincon 3 review. I feel like that's kind of a simple foam bottom top that goes into the Beacon from New Balance, Nova Blast from Asics. I find myself leaning towards that category of simple foam bottom, lightweight upper, just very runnable. So that's probably my favorite. Where I think I want a shoe that we're having, I think I want the bounce that I get out of the Alpha Fly in a racer, but maybe a lower profile. And I don't know if that's possible. Like, so if I was a PLM and it's like, I want the bounce off the toe with the nice cushion, but maybe not the stack. Like, if you could do that without being 6'8", then I would, I'd be happy with that. I don't know if that technology is out there yet, though.
Well, and honestly, I've had similar dreams to that as well, but that's, again, one of those issues where you need a certain amount of foam, like above and below the plate and some other things. Otherwise, you get different types of uncomfortable things. And I have that same dream. It would definitely be a challenge to manufacture, or something that we're kind of looking into that direction. But yeah, that's a great category. I agree with you.
Yeah. The problem that I find is, like you said, if I design my own shoe, you wonder if I'd like it. I really like a high toe spring. So I like it when it comes off and rolls off the toe really quickly.
Yep.
But then I also want the bounce off right before that. I want to feel a bounce off of that. So, I basically want a little trampoline right underneath the palm of my foot, and then I want the shoe to disappear through the stride. So I could probably run on a shoe that had no heel on it at all. But yeah,
we'll run that brief by development and
thank you.
They have, and they'll say, no, man, we can't do that for this reason, but we can do this. It's, again, at the end of the day, like product development, we're all one big team. Everybody brings different expertise and different specialties, and certainly none of us could do it alone. So I'm lucky I get to talk to you, but I just want to give a shout out to Asia, to design, to development, my PLM cohorts that help me and keep me sane. To everyone at Puma that has worked so hard on this relaunch, and we just feel so good about not only where we are right now, but are excited about the future.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's almost like I would just add one last thing. Like, most of the time for me, it's taking pieces from various shoe lines from different companies and mashing them together and Frankenstein them, that rather than having one answer for you there. But,
No, that's.
I think you guys are on the right track. I'm curious to see the new product. It is kind of like, okay, you wowed us. You came out. We weren't expecting anything. So the bar was really low for Puma to do well. Now I feel like I got a bar up for you guys, and I got to see. Okay,
Raise the bar. I was gonna say raise the bar. We're ready. The shoes Velocity, Deviate, Eternity, Liberate that people and Deviate Elite that people are really liking. Those are gonna stay consistent. We're not gonna mess those up too much. I mean, if we can make something a little softer, a little better fit, we will.
And I think I was thinking of the Velocity when I was saying.
You probably were.
I was thinking of the Velocity, not the Liberate, when I was saying that just a simple foam underneath. Yes. Has good rubber contact with the Puma grip, nice simple upper. Like that seems to be my favorite category of running shoe. Like they keep it simple.
Yeah, I mean, and in beginning of 2022, this one I can leak. We do have a Velocity too. It got a little bit lighter, it got a little bit better fit, but it's still the same great Puma grip. Still same great cushion. So you can look forward to that one coming soon.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it, Todd. I hope you had fun. I'm sure our listeners are going to learn a lot about PLMs because I don't think anybody knows. Like we come on, and I know that you know Danny from New Balance and stuff like that, and we've talked to him in the past.
Yep.
And I think that there is some confusion that a PLM doesn't necessarily design shoes, but it maybe sets the target of how the shoe should be designed or what the end product should achieve. So
yeah, and all that only comes from consumers, right? Like it comes from consumers and retailers, what they're hearing and what people want. And we gather all that info again from salespeople, from retailers, from everyone. We kind of take all that info in and then kind of figure out what we keep hearing on a repeated basis, and then set that strategic direction of delivering against it. I love it. I absolutely love being a PLM. Like there's nothing I would rather do. And to answer your question about what I would maybe do otherwise, honestly, I was going to keep going and keep trying to be a PLM until I got to be a PLM. That's a really long time. There were a lot of closed doors, a lot of things that didn't happen. 2008, I was in Michigan, got laid off. Like things happen. There are roadblocks. Everyone has to deal with them. But I think if you really want something in running and in life, little inside joke there. But I think if you really want something and you keep persisting at it, you'll get it. And I never thought I would be a PLM. I didn't know if I would make it, but I was determined to keep going until I got there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough. I think so many people are passionate about running and fall in love with the sport and everything that has to go around with it. So I think it's probably more competitive to get into these spots into a company than you might think. There's several brands out there, but if Puma, Adidas, New Balance, Brooks, Asics, it's got to be competitive to get those spots.
It's competitive, and there aren't very many of them. Absolutely. And that's where I think for young people that want to get into it, just being flexible, being mobile, being willing to do, when I first was talking to my previous job, their company, they were like, okay, you'll come be a tech rep manager. And then they canceled my interview and I was like, oh no. And they're like, actually, we need a new sales guy. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. And then they canceled that interview. And I was like, what's going on? And they were like, hey, our PLM just left. Do you want that role? And I was like, dream complete. We made it. So,
you just had to wait.
Yes.
You wait till people fell out. That's funny. All right. Well, awesome. I'm not sure when this one will actually publish because we have a couple in the queue, but it should be in the next couple of weeks. So,
okay.
Yeah, if there's a particular image that you'd like for us to use to promote, you can go ahead and send me that image, or I can just grab something from your Instagram, whichever you want.
You can grab from IG if you think there's anything good, but
I'm sure there's something. There's got to be something on there, right?
Yeah. No, there's a few good ones. So cool.
All right, awesome. So are you training for anything now?
I mean,
just the Burning River?
Well, so that's in 10 days or something. So I'm in full taper mode. And then I'm going to roll that into Tunnel Hill 100 in November.
All right.
We didn't get into it, but I've had 4 ankle surgeries since 2017 and I'm just kind of rebuilding my foundation. So there's running's a journey for all of us, right? So I'm just trying to do the next thing, but yeah.
Well, if you need any recommendations on Tunnel Hill, we have both, Taylor Bodine, who's on our team, who's run it, and then we're friends with Don Reichelt, who also, I think, came in first or second place.
Crazy.
Yeah.
No, I would love some recommendations. I mean, I know it's kind of trail, it's kind of not. I know people run fast there for sure, but yeah, any little insights would be helpful. So
Yeah, maybe hit Taylor up in his DMs. He's pretty good about responding.
okay,
Do you know Taylor Bodine?
not. I mean, I've heard the name, but I don't know. No, not
All
really.
right. I'll DM you his stuff, but yeah.
Cool, cool. And what about you, Thomas? What's next on your agenda?
We're doing this grit project for us. So I've been doing pretty much since the beginning of the month, 10 miles or more every day, and just just jamming in those miles, slowing down and taking it easy. But we have wine glass in the fall, and
Okay.
then I think we're going to go up with Asics and run the Falmouth 7 mile race that's up your way.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys will be around, but so that one. But I've never trained for a 7 mile race. I don't even know what that would be.
Unfortunately, they'd probably tell you to train like it's a 5K race and then just hold on.
Oh, that sounds horrible. That sounds really bad.
It's a fast track to a calf injury, but you do what you can. So
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, so that and other than that, like I came off of a really disappointing marathon in the spring. I had a really crappy time at York, so I kind of like I was with a coach and I just decided I wanted to just do my own thing for a little while. So I think in Wine Glass, I'm just going to kind of show up and see what I can do. Like after, I'm going to have a pretty solid base month this month. And then, I'll probably take a week off in August and then start doing some specific speed training and stuff like that for the marathon.
yeah. Well, nice. Yeah, that'll be really good. I think to get some speed, do some 7 milers, and then kind of go longer. Once you get up into the ultras, like the 100 is literally a totally different event. My number one skill is being able to walk like a 14 or 15-minute mile because
Oh, wow.
you can do that. You save so much time and eat while you're moving and all those things. But I like doing kind of the different events that like forces me to train different, kind of focus my mind a little bit different too. But
yeah, I that's the thing. I used to do more ultras, and I just got out of it, just to think. But I will tell you, with doing a minimum of 10 miles every day, I can go through shoe reviews really quick.
I have no doubts about that. Oh my gosh. Well, someday we should compare closets, because
Yeah.
as I see your wall, I try to keep up with you guys. I'm just thankful that you run as many as you do, because then instead of going for a 40-minute run, I watch a 10-minute video of yours, and I'm
there you go. Yeah, like the Rincon and the new Bondi X from Hoga, I was able to. I already have, I think, 60 miles on the Rincon in a week, and I have